bit.
I think so too. I think so too. I think it's still close. I think it was always pretty close. But you can take some steps on both sides to make it better if it's something you're concerned about. Zoria's control likely to be a larger portion of the field to worry about than Amulet Titan. Rosum, ideal turn one start, leading on that Amulet of Vigor. Over on Brandon Dollaway's side, just going to develop some mana. He opted. Got a little bit more information. Rosum with a follow-up Cavern of Souls. Very important card in this matchup.
Yeah, generally not one that you want to commit this early for fear of Field of Ruin, but sometimes you just have to do it.
Well, also, Jerry, things have changed. There's Karns in this deck now, and Karn can go get Crucible of Worlds. That's a difference maker. You have a way to get that Cavern back if it's dealt with. I agree with you. It's not ideal.
Yeah, I think if you're resolving Karn, you're probably in a pretty good spot.
Yeah, usually. Karn, very powerful addition to these Amulet Titan lists. Rosum is playing the full 4 copies. I believe he has 2 in his hand presently as well. He also has beautiful Japanese versions of those Planeswalkers.
Smart.
Yep. Here is Field of Ruin on Cavern of Souls.
So this is in response to a Gruul Turf activation.
Absolutely.
Normally you could maybe see going after the Gruul Turf because it might be the only bounce land that the Amulet player has access to.
So it's going to provide Rosum with a bit of extra mana here.
But like we said, Cavern of Souls, super important in the matchup. Dollaway going immediately after that instead of perhaps the more immediately threatening Gruul Turf.
Rosum going to return a land because of that bounce land trigger. 2 mana floating. Looking for a 3rd mana here. It's Azusa. Lost but seeking. What are we seeking for? Maybe a Titan? Who knows?
Yeah, Rosum has access to a lot of different stuff. Does have another bounce land, also has a Summoner's Pact. It looks like, since Dollaway searched out of basic planes, that he could have Path to Exile at the ready. So it is possible that he might just want to resolve Karn this turn while the shields are down, but we'll see.
Looks like the choice is going to be Karn. Powerful new Planeswalker from War of the Spark. And Rosum's going to go looking for the sideboard. Of course, Karn's -2 allows you to grab an artifact from your sideboard, and he is going to get the Crucible of Worlds. Important both as a card advantage source and a way to mitigate that Cavern of Souls hitting the bin. There you see Karn, the Great Creator. Expected to see more of this card today thus far. I mean, maybe it's just a virtue of what we've seen on camera, but this card has been everywhere in Modern on Magic Online recently.
I think it is everywhere in the tournament too. We're just not seeing a lot of it because a lot of the top players aren't including it in their decks. They're just not playing things like Prison, where you would normally see this card.
Very fair point. So Dollaway just going to pass the turn back to Rosum here. Looks like we have an upkeep effect. It's Vendilion Click. Going to come down, take a look at Rosum's hand. Going to have a chance to answer that Crucible of Worlds if Dollaway chooses.
This is kind of dangerous, right? Because you know that your opponent can just minus the Karn, get Mycosynth Lattice.
Yeah. I think this game might just be over. That was on draw step, right?
It was draw step, yeah.
Yeah, this could be a wrap, Jerry. Granted, Dollaway will have that Vendilion Click in play, but that's not going to be enough long term. Walking Ballista is the take for Dollaway.
Yeah, you get rid of the Ballista, but Rosum still has Summoner's Pact alongside Amulet of Vigor, so going to either be able to assuredly win the race or at the very least find something that can deal with the Vendilion.
Right. Yeah, this seems like a very good position for Rosum. Is going to play Crucible to start with. Plenty of mana available for Rosum. He can probably do it all here, quite frankly. There's Cavern of Souls from the bin.
Land drop number 1.
Land drop number 2. Here's number 3. Here's Summoner's Pact. Here's Primeval Titan.
So Boros Garrison already on the battlefield. Rosum is going to get Slayer's Stronghold and Vesuva to copy the Boros Garrison.
That's going to go ahead, give that Titan haste. Turn Vesuva to hand. Here's an attack from Primeval Titan. And we're going to go ahead, search up some more lands. What do you think about Rosum not going for the Mycosynth Lattice there?
I don't get it.
I don't either.
Like, what are the ways for blue-white?
You cannot get out from under that. Not sure. New addition to the deck. Maybe just not crossing Rosum's mind yet. We'll have a chat with him afterwards, see what his reasoning was.
Yeah, let's be real. I mean, this is a virtual kill, right?
Of course. We're probably nitpicking here. But if you want to close that door if you can.
Yeah, of course. And if I were Rosum, you know, I wouldn't put these new cards in my deck to not play with them,
right.
to not lock people out of the game.
Yeah. So that's the dream right there. So Rosum is going to go ahead and pay for Summoner's Pact.
Good choice.
Yeah, I like that one. No disputing that play. Here's another bounce land. It's going to do some mana stuff.
So first land drop, floating one from Teleria West, returning that.
I got it. I know what's going on. I know why he didn't get Lattice.
Why?
Because he's got click and play, so he can just attack Karn and break the... Yeah. New cards. We're getting used to him, too. Rosum's right. Trust Jonathan Rosum. That's a good rule of thumb, right?
Yeah, now I'm wondering if he could have done stuff like play Titan and get Lattice.
I think he was a mana short.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So I think Rosum got that one right. We got it wrong. War of the Spark, Planeswalker static abilities, baffling us all every single time.
Yeah, this wasn't even a static ability, though.
No, I mean, it's the static ability on Karn that makes Mycosynth Lattice the lock.
Yeah, true. Yeah, see, I would just want to put the new cards onto the battlefield.
Right. Who cares if you win? Just throw it on there.
Just have the lock immediately broken up.
Yeah. Would have learned very quickly. Ross, I'm going to go ahead and transmute this Teleria West. Yeah, and that also makes Dollaway's click make a lot more sense. It makes his determination with click, the fact that he took the Walking Ballista, so you couldn't just break up the kill condition for the Karn. It all makes a lot more sense now. Rosum now with access to Walking Ballista. Path to Exile on Primeval Titan. Don't want to let that one trigger.
It's already done enough, I think.
Think so too. Crucible of Worlds, Teleria West, Bounced Lands all going. Rosum should be able to find mostly whatever he wants at all points in time here. Very strong position presently. Passes the turn back to Dollaway. There you see Karn dying. It does do that, turns out.
Yes. Well, given that, I wonder if it's better to just have Karn minus and get another artifact.
Yeah?
Oh, it's -2. It's +1 and -2. Okay. I should just not question Rosum at all.
Well, I found that's a very good rule of thumb in general. Certainly has found a lot of success here on the SCG Tour. Generally good human being.
I would say great.
Sure, I'll give him great status. Rosum thinking through this turn. has the incredible value engine of Crucible of Worlds Talaria West Bounce Land going. The world remains his oyster. We're at the counting stage.
Copy Bounce Land, return Ballista, or return Cavern, name Construct, cast Ballista.
Sounds pretty nice.
This one I can get.
Yeah. We figured one out, Jerry. We got there. Does he have appropriate mana? There comes that Cavern. Strong bet it named Construct. We have confirmation. Construct is the name with Cavern of Souls.
Rosum has like 18 mana, 19 mana.
Totally reasonable amount of mana to have.
He's like, yeah, all of it.
Yep.
Dollaway picks up his card showing a mana leak.
He says that is a sufficiently large number. You have killed me. Well played by Jonathan Rosum, despite us bungling up exactly what he was doing here in the booth. We're going to go to sideboards now. A lot of this Amulet Titan sideboard has been eaten up by this Karn board, but still some options here for Rosum. He's looking at 2 Negate, 2 Dismember, 2 Engineered Explosives, 1 Academy Ruins, 1 Tormod's Crypt, 1 Pithy Needle, 1 Crucible of Worlds, 1 Reclamation Sage, 1 Tireless Tracker, 1 Mycosynth Lattice, 1 Worm Coil Engine, and 1 Hornet Queen. Jerry, what do you like on Jonathan Rosum's side?
I like Negate, Tireless Tracker. Something like Pithing Needle could just stay in the sideboard as a Karn thing, but I think that's also just like a pretty reasonable card to just bring in because I think there are things like Lattice and Crucible that are more of a priority to go after with Karn. And then maybe bringing in the Academy Ruins as well to have access to that.
Yeah, I think if you're not playing Emrakul, that's what you're actually leaning on for your long game plan. You can go to Academy Ruins instead, guarantee at some point you'll be able to establish Crucible and basically just never run out of gas. Because that's kind of how this matchup, when it went against you as the Amulet player, you would just be run out of resources. Essentially, Blue-White Control would answer all of your Primeval Titans and you'd be left with nothing to do, and that's how they eventually win the game. You make that very difficult if you have Academy Ruins in your deck.
Right, and Amulet is way more threat dense now, too.
That as well.
So it helps against that.
Absolutely. Meanwhile, over on Brandon's side, we were looking at 1 Settle the Wreckage, 1 Surgical Extraction, 1 Timely Reinforcements, 1 Vendilion Click, 2 Celestial Purge, 2 Disdainful Stroke, 2 Rest in Peace, 2 Spell Pierce, 1 Lyra Dawnbringer, 1 Engineered Explosives, and a Dovin's Veto. Jerry, what do you like on the Azorius control side?
A lot of the counterspells, Dovin's Veto, Spell Pierce, Disdainful Stroke, all seem pretty reasonable. Vendilion Click is another card that helps pressure while also disrupting. I could see you making a case for Engineered Explosives, and I think that's about it. I don't think you really want to go after things like Surgical Extraction in this sort of matchup. And again, the Amulet deck has gotten a lot more threat dense. Even if you do manage to like counter and Surgical Primeval Titan, they still have a plethora of ways to kill you.
I agree. Too many options from the Amulet Titan deck for that to be a reliable way to do this thing. I saw it in the past. I thought it was better then for sure, but it's probably still not worth it then. Definitely not worth it now.
Yep, definitely agree. And then cards you can take out include things like Oust and the Sweepers, Supreme Verdict, Wrath of God, Surgical Extraction in the main deck seems fine to cut.
All makes sense to me. Well, I don't think this Amulet Titan upgrade is catching anyone by surprise at this point. It's kind of been a known entity for a little while. If you are surprised to see it, though, that means you're failing to read the SCG newsletter. In fact, my article about this Amulet Titan upgrade, it was there. It was in the newsletter this week. If you had checked it out, you would know exactly what these players are bringing to the table. It has highlights from our best articles, upcoming SCG tour dates, locations, IQs near you. Of course, those IQs are a very important part of the SCG organized play system. And also SCG game nights if you're looking for something a little bit more on the casual side. And you can sign up completely for free. Head on over to go.starcitygames.com/newsletter.
Get to see those sick Living End articles.
Yeah, that one's a little outdated now. I don't think there's a lot of Living End here today.
I saw at least one.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
As foretold.
As foretold, Living End, very nice. Always been a fan of As Foretold. I want to see if someone eventually makes that one work, but not quite yet.
It's getting there. It is
so
close.
many ways to cast those costless spells at this point. They just keep piling up, and even more in Modern Horizons at this point.
Collected Conjuring among them.
Yep. So many redundant ways to just fire off Restore Balance if that's your thing. I feel like people scoff at Restore Balance, but I was around for Balance when it was just a card in Standard. Nightmare.
The card balance is much stronger than the card Restore Balance.
I will concede that point to you. I agree.
The balance effect is also very powerful. And I do think in a field of Amulet Titan, Azorius Control, Izzet Phoenix, like a lot of the popular decks that we've seen, Restore Balance could potentially be pretty good.
There is a dedicated contingent that is always trying to figure out a way to make that deck work. Ari Lax, I know, a big supporter of the archetype. Rosum searching for sideboard cards. He found it.
I think he's switching sleeves.
Maybe a blown sleeve there.
Got a little too aggro, young Rosum.
Sometimes you slam that Primeval Titan and you just get pumped, just smashing your sleeves together. It's interesting how the pressure from Karn affected that game. Obviously, Titan's still the KO. But Karn made it really the KO, finding that Crucible of Worlds.
Right, I think without the Karn, Dollaway's not pressured into deploying the Vendilion Click.
Right.
Rosum doesn't necessarily have access to his Cavern of Souls anymore, so we saw Dollaway's Mana Leak still in his hand. Could have potentially been good.
Yeah, I think the decision from Dollaway on when to deploy that Vendilion Click also a very interesting one. You look at both players' openers here. It's like maybe Spell Pierce, Hieroglyphic Illumination is there.
Love it.
Another one of Jerry Thompson's favorite cards. You see the Surgical Extraction, it made the cut. We'll see if that proves to be correct or if it rots in hand for Dollaway.
It is almost always like a 3 or a 10.
Right. Slow start here from Rosum, but honestly, you're pretty okay playing this matchup slow.
Yeah, you basically just need threats. The Azorius Control deck has so many ways to actually slow you down and stop your deck from killing them that there's no reason to like mulligan aggressively looking for a turn 3 Titan or anything like that.
Absolutely. Rosum going to go ahead and deploy Azusa here. Plays an extra land, plays a second extra land, returns Talaria West to hand. Dollaway takes the turn back. Just passes, going to allow Azusa to remain on the battlefield.
And that was a good turn for Rosum. You can tell he was pretty happy about Azusa resolving. He got to make his extra land drops, pick up Talaria West, which is just going to be another gas card at some point.
Azusa rumbling into the red zone. A fearsome 1 point of damage. Here's Vesiva copying that bounce land. Rosum just content to build up mana here. Now has a lot of it. Dollaway fires off Hieroglyphic Illumination. Access to 5 mana now, just passes the turn back.
It's so good. If you don't like it, you can just cycle it. If nothing's happening, you get to draw 2 cards. Such a low opportunity cost.
Yeah. I've enjoyed the card in Azorius Control. Certainly like it better than other 4 mana draw 2s that I've seen occasionally somehow make the cut. Glimmer of Genius. It's been there. I don't agree with it. Gotta stay lean in Modern. More draw go here. Very slow-paced game. Comes Azusa. Passes the turn back. Does Rosum.
Yeah, Rosum with access to 10 mana might not have a lot of ways to actually win counter wars over his cards, so there's no real reason to actually engage in a fight now when you know that Dollaway's hand is basically all reactive things. So he can either play draw go, just develop mana along with your opponent, and then at some point Dollaway is going to have to blink and do something.
There's a Karn off the top for Rosum.
Oh yeah.
Here comes Snapcaster Mage, looking to cash in on that value. It is going to be Hieroglyphic Illumination Flashback. Dollaway draws a couple cards. Takes the turn back. Very stocked grip for Dollaway. Unfortunately, one of the cards, Spell Pierce. Not going to be doing a whole lot here.
I mean, it's not if Rosum is content to just play one spell a turn, but if there is a turn where he plays multiple things, it's possible that Pierce will be able to tag like a Karn at the end.
We'll see. We'll see if Dollaway can find a window. This is a great example of why I like Emrakul so much in this matchup. The Promise End, of course, 13 mana Emrakul. Wait, is that the Promise End? Which one's the 13 mana one?
That's the good one.
Okay.
Aeon's Torn is the
Thank
15.
you. That's right. Azusa forces the chump block. Excellent work, Azusa.
It was a trade.
You've earned your keep.
It was a trade,
It
not
was
a
a trade.
chump.
It was a trade. Oh, this makes it effectively a chump as a new Azusa has shown up on the battlefield. Here's Vendilion Click. Take a look at the grip. Couple of Karns, Summoner's Pact, another Azusa, and a Reclamation Sage, as well as 2 lands, one of which is a Talaria West.
Yeah, that one's been there for a while.
Let's see if this presence of a meager clock is enough to start Rosum down a path of action.
Well, Rosum has enough mana to play 2 Karns and transmute Talaria West for a Pact of Negation if he wants to, so he can make some stuff happen.
That's Summoner's Pact. Going to head to the bottom of the library. Rosum takes a replacement draw. There's another Karn. We're up to 3 Karns.
And 12 mana.
Yep.
Still has the same Vendilion Click problem that existed in the first game.
Absolutely.
But I think at this point, you can just start jamming Karns and use it as a -2 and a fog, pick up an artifact.
We're going to start with Reclamation Stage.
It's probably where Rossum's going to finish then, too.
Looks like it. Pass to the turn, back to Dollaway. Here is Teferi from Dollaway. Both players finally starting to deploy some threats to the battlefield.
And this is a card that is probably going to make Rosum have to act. The longer he lets any Planeswalker sit on the battlefield, accruing advantage for Dollaway, the worse it's going to get for him. The harder it's going to be to break through a potential counter wall.
Right. Rosum would love to draw just a natural Primeval Titan here. Could get up to some shenanigans with that. I think he drew a 4th Karn. Oops, all Karns for Rosum.
Well, here's a Talaria West transmute. Maybe.
False start. Step 1, attack. 2-1 and a 1-2. Rumbling into the red zone. 2-1 catches a Path to Exile.
Maybe not the best use case for a Rex Sage, but I think that's a completely fine one.
Yeah. Click doing a great job of mitigating Karn's effectiveness here in both matchups so far, obviously. See how important that is going forward for these Azorius control decks. We talked a lot about the 3-mana Planeswalkers. Here's another point of pressure on those Planeswalkers. Click, not a card that's always in the main deck. Only a single copy for Dollaway in the main, one more in the sideboard, but it's doing work right now.
Yeah, and if you expect the format to become about Saheeli, Narset, Karn, Teferi Time Raveler, Vendilion Click is one of those cards that you can turn to that is very strong against them.
I agree. So here is that transmuted Tolaria West that we thought might be coming. It's going to go get Pact of Negation. And now we're going to play a Karn. Karn's going to be met with a Spell Pierce. Rosum pays. Looks like Karn's going to resolve.
Interesting to just fire off the Spell Pierce.
Yeah, just looking to restrict Rosum's mana here, I guess. Rosum going to play Pithing Needle, naming Teferi. Dollaway takes the turn back. We know he has Detention Sphere in hand. Can answer that Pithing Needle if he so chooses. Comes an attack from Click that's going to take out the Karn.
Just Dreadbore with buyback.
There's the Detention Sphere. Rosum says it's time for Pact. Has he worn down Dollaway's resources? Dollaway passes the turn back to Rosum.
I was expecting more fireworks on that turn.
I thought so too. Rosum paying for Pact of Negation.
I feel like Dollaway must have gotten pretty unfortunate draws after playing Drago for so long, playing 2 hieroglyphic illuminations.
A lot of lands in play.
Yeah, still just having access to nothing.
Yeah, a lot of lands. He's got that Surgical Extraction in hand.
That is true.
Here comes Click.
Find it hard to believe that it would be a great card that could have been there in place of that Surgical.
Right. Yeah, fair enough. Sideboard decisions not made in a vacuum. You always have to consider what you're taking out. Looks like it's time for Surgical Extraction.
Yeah, I mean, you know Rosum has a lot more cards in his hand.
Yeah. It's going to be pretty high value. Rosum's going to respond with Negate, and that's met with a Dovin's Veto. Looking to KO Karn for the rest of the game. Veto resolves. Time to look.
Yeah, somewhat importantly, too, this means that Rosum is shut off from any artifacts that are in his sideboard, too. So probably no Crucible of Worlds this game.
Yeah, that can matter a lot. There's the 4th copy of Karn. Rosum's deck's starting to get a little threat dense, though. Has a Summoner's Pact in hand, if he wants to deploy that one.
Yeah, Dollaway down to just 2 cards.
Yeah, we mentioned that the Amulet Titan side very content to slow down here. Did you see Amulets when he was going through the deck?
I wasn't looking.
I don't think I saw them, and they could all be gone here. I've seen that sideboard strategy before. I think it's fine. I think it makes sense. Certainly at least trimming them. Maybe we'll get a look when Rosum goes through this time. I saw one. There's two. Maybe he trimmed. He's going to go get Tireless Tracker.
Love it.
Another Jerry Thompson classic.
You could probably blame Michael Majors for my love of this card.
Tireless Tracker going to resolve. Here's a bounce land.
3 land drops from Azusa.
We're going to respond, though, with Path to Exile.
Rosum's going to float a mana, Ghost Quarter himself, get another land from his deck, which will count for landfall. So he's going to have 2 clues coming. Maybe not the busted turn that he expected. But he can bust one of these clues, go looking for the other copy of Negate.
Cracks one. Takes a draw. I think it was Summoner's Pact.
So one clue trigger still in the stack.
There's that clue.
And 3 forests on the battlefield, 1 in the graveyard, so all out of basics to fetch. Bounce land trigger happening.
Gonna return that bounce land. There's another Summoner's Pact that is gonna resolve. I believe only 1 card for Dollaway in hand at this point.
Yep.
And Rosum has the mana. It's Primeval Titan time. I really want to know how many amulets are left in Rosum's deck.
You can just ask him.
Oh, I will. But I think it's important information to relay here. Because it dramatically affects how he would choose to play the matchup, for sure.
Oh, for sure. I mean, if your deck basically has no amulets, I think just going land, land, land on the first 3 turns is completely reasonable.
Right. Well, he's got at least a couple.
So Primeval Titan finds 2 Teleria West. Dollaway goes after 1 with a Field of Ruin, which is now effectively Strip Mine. Strip Mine with bonus, because you know that Rosum is out of basic lands at this point.
Right. The resources are getting low for Dollaway, though.
And plays the Celestial Colonnade, which almost certainly came off the top of the deck this turn.
Yep.
So likely no Cryptic Command shenanigans, or any good counterspell really left.
Path to Exile, last card in hand. It's a good one to have, for sure. Yes. Really needed it there.
Yep, so Titan's gone. Rosum has 2 Summoner's Packs to pay for.
Is going to be able to make that payment. Now both these players going to be living off the top of their decks, but Rosum with a crucial clue token on the battlefield. That 1 clue token can feel like a million when you're in these type of situations.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, he also has the other Teleria West on the battlefield and Bounce Land in his hand, so he does have access to another threat.
Very true.
And this could just be Summoner's Pact for another Primeval Titan, or it could just directly get Walking Ballista, but realistically, Rosum doesn't need to figure that out until next turn.
Right. Going to take a reset on one of these gemstones. Redeploys it. Attacks with Azusa. Dollaway going to take a draw here. Does have access to Celestial Colonnade now.
And enough mana to use it to attack and block.
Yep. Double duty.
But this is 7 points of damage.
2-turn clock.
Yeah, Rosum's at 14. He does, again, have the Teleria West, which can answer the Vendilion Click.
What did Dollaway draw on that turn? That's going to be the big question. what options are left for Rosum in the deck? I think that's a question as well.
So he has 12 mana, can Ballista for 6. Does have those 3 Azusa land drops remaining, but I don't think it's going to accomplish much. Maybe give him 1 extra mana. Yep, Series 12.
We're tapping it all. He drew Cryptic off the top. What a clutch draw from Dollaway.
Yeah, that's incredible.
And that is going to do it. Dollaway is going to take game 2, and we're going to head to a game 3 with 14 minutes left on the clock here.
Yeah, Rosum did his best trying to pace that game.
I think the way he played the game was fine. I think he played to a point where he had Dollaway at a real place of vulnerability, and Dollaway just found the answer on the critical turn.
Yep, exactly.
I think you want to switch up here from either player going into game 3?
Saw Rosum bring in the Rex Sage, which makes sense given that a lot of Azorius decks do have access to stuff like Detention Sphere, but was sort of a dead draw there.
Yeah.
And because he didn't have as much gas as he wanted to, he just had to deploy it to try and pressure a Planeswalker. Maybe if that were a different card, like even an Amulet, it might have mattered more that game. Like maybe you can just overwhelm their counter magic and tax the amount of mana that they have available by generating a bunch of mana yourself and playing multiple spells on a turn. So who knows?
I wonder if Rosum going to be altering the Amulet count going into this third game. I know I'm harping on this point, but I do think it really dictates how this matchup is going to play out. It's possible he goes even lower on Amulets going into game 3. I don't know. I think maybe being on the play, you're a little bit more incentivized to have more in your deck.
Yeah, I don't know. I honestly don't know if it's a better card to have play or draw. Because on the draw, you have more resources.
Right.
It makes more sense to want to just start threatening them as early as possible, not let them actually play out all their Planeswalkers.
Yeah, I think you can make the argument both ways. We'll see what Rosum thinks about it. I do think he reached for the sideboard again, but you know, sometimes that's just posturing. Sometimes there are meaningful adjustments to be made.
Sometimes it's like, hey, I'm just going to take a look.
Yep.
Make sure I'm not missing anything.
Let's evaluate Surgical Extraction in that game. How much do you think that mattered to determining the outcome? I think it was actually pretty impactful. Even though it rotted for a while, I think had Rosum just been able to go Karn, he would have found a way to take control of that game very quickly.
I agree with that. Like countering the Karn, or attacking it rather, and then dealing with it with Surgical ended up being good, especially because Dollaway knew Rossum's hand from an earlier Vendilion click, so I think that helped make his decision a lot easier. I don't know. How often do you think that exact situation is going to come up where you're playing draw go, your opponent has multiples of the card, blah, 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 you know?
That's the thing, is that you remember these times where this works out in your favor, but it was kind of just like random chance that the game played out in that fashion and that Rosum had gotten Karn flooded of all things.
Well, now that Rosum knows Surgical is there, he can actually pace his threats differently too.
Of course.
Oh, it makes me sad.
No, that should make you happy, emphasizing the diversity of hieroglyphic illumination. It can do it all.
It's true.
So again, a measured pace to this game. Nobody really exploding onto the battlefield. Here's that Vendilion click again, though, Jerry.
It's too good. It's
yeah,
busted.
It's really, really being impactful in this matchup. Going to take a look at Rosum's hand. It looks like we're dealing with double Ancient Stirrings, Azusa, 4 lands is my read on that.
3 land, 2 Karn.
Karn, thank you.
Or 2 land, 2 Karn.
Yep. You are correct. Karn flooded again is Rosum. And those are both bounce lands. So important, no untapped land here for Rosum. Azusa, gonna head to the bottom. Maybe this will be an untapped land. Takes the draw.
Could be anything.
Could be a boat. Is it in fact a boat? We're gonna cast Ancient Stirrings.
Ooh.
There's that Ballista.
That's a good one. You get to reset the board and just get back to parity.
Yeah. That is going to be the choice for Rosum. Plays it. I do think that is the right use of Ballista here. You just don't want that click on the battlefield. It causes problems when you're trying to leverage Karn.
And you don't even need to fire it off on this incoming attack. You can just simply untap, activate Ballista, put another counter on it, keep it around.
Sure, keep your options open. Tolario West re-enters the battlefield. Ballista going on the beatdown plan. Ballista is such a silly card. I remember the first time I ever cast a Walking Ballista.
And you're like, oh.
It was in the pre-release, actually.
Oh, yeah, it's
and I was
worse.
like, this card is stupid. This is a stupid card. I should buy a lot of these. And I did. And then I cast a lot of them over the course of my life now. And it always pays dividends.
Love this play from Dollaway. End of turn firing off a Cryptic Command to
cool one.
Bounce a land from Rosum. Rosum gets to take up his Ballista in response, but it's still set back a lot in mana development.
Bouncing a bounce land is a big play. Dollaway with 5 mana available now, going to play untapped land and has Teferi. Kind of plus, takes a draw.
This is kind of the dream, getting to resolve Teferi, Hero of Dominaria, against a tapped out opponent, passing the turn, getting to untap 2 mana, potentially have counter magic open. And especially after Dollaway went after Rosum's land, it really lessens the options that Rosum's going to have on this turn too. So there's not a whole lot that Dollaway has to fear even.
For sure. Ballista going to rumble in after Teferi. Teferi falls to 3 loyalty. Rosum redeploys that bounce land. Makes 4 mana. It's time for Azusa. It'll resolve. Rosum going to make both his extra land drops, passes the turn. Back. Here's Path to Exile targeting Walking Ballista. Going to spread some damage around the battlefield. Wants the land, though. Only 1 point going to head to that click. Makes sense. Fairy pluses.
And at this point, you just sit behind Teferi, try and stop whatever your opponent's doing, draw 2 cards a turn. Usually this works out.
Usually.
But Amulet's a tricky one with things like Cavern of Souls. You're not necessarily safe even if you have something like 3 counter spells in hand.
Sure. There's Azusa going after Teferi, trying to keep that loyalty in check. Ancient Stirring's going to go find an Amulet of Vigor. Amulet of Vigor is deployed. Now Bounce Land's going to generate some mana in conjunction with Azusa. Here's where things could start getting a little iffy for Dollaway. Bounce Land going to head back to hand. 4 mana now floating for Rosum. Karn is the cast. Dollaway going to respond with Snapcaster Mage. Cryptic Command, counter Karn. Second mode, draw a card. Yoink.
I don't know why I'm more excited for Snapcaster Hieroglyphic Illumination, because Snapcaster on Cryptic Command seems pretty good.
It's pretty good, right? Decent play. Rosum does have a follow-up to this play, though. It's Karn again. Oops, all Karns is Rosum's general approach to this matchup. And look at this, Rosum minusing Karn, get back Walking Ballista from exile. Not only can Karn go to your graveyard, or excuse me, your sideboard, it can go to your exiled cards as well.
Yeah, they kind of nerfed the wishes by making it so that you couldn't get cards out of your exile anymore.
Yeah, Karn receiving no such nerf. There's also weird stuff that comes up where you Bajuka Bog your own graveyard to get access to a artifact one more time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Karn matters a lot in this deck. You really use all the pieces of the Buffalo.
Amulet just keeps getting weirder and weirder.
It does. It really does.
Just beating your opponents through sheer confusion at this point.
So Snapcaster Mage going to go after Karn. Dollaway has a follow-up in another Planeswalker. It's Narset. Narset going to look at the top 4 cards. There's that Surgical Extraction again. Not likely to be as impactful this time around. Opt is the take from Narset.
Dollaway says, I would rather have a random card than the Surgical Extraction.
Yeah. And he'll get it. There's Opt. This top card causing a bit of a think. Dollaway is going to keep it. It's Opt again.
Just going infinite.
There's that Teferi untap. Rosum taking the turn back here. Takes his draw. Going to deploy Bounce Land. Makes a little bit of mana. Looks like we're doing it a few times here. Up to 4 mana now. Time for Tolaria West to come back to hand. Yep. 5 mana presently floating.
And 1 land drop remaining. Players also have to be aware that only a couple minutes left in this round.
We're going to go ahead and transmute that Tolaria West. Did he go from 5 to 3 on that? Rosum figuring out options for this turn. Looks like the option is going to be Walking Ballista. Usually a pretty good one.
Yeah, Cavern Soul's certainly helping, making it immune to counterspells. Walking Ballista for 7.
Oh, that seems pretty good. And that is, in fact, going to enter the battlefield. Gonna send Azusa after Teferi. Here's a Snapcaster Mage.
Just kidding.
Here's a Path to Exile prior to the Snapcaster Mage. I see why we hesitated now. So it's time to start spewing some of these counters around. Looks like public enemy number 1 is Teferi. And this Ballista just going to town. I shoot you, I shoot you, I shoot you. Now we're having to think on this last counter. A lot of incentive to keep the battlefield clear here, but also you know that Dollaway has another Snapcaster Mage in hand. Rosum is going to go ahead and shoot.
Yeah, given that there's less than a minute left, I think I like that. Otherwise, you could make like the normal play where you just let it get exiled,
Right.
get it back with a backup Karn.
Right. He's got Academy Ruins in play as well.
Oh, okay, yeah. So I guess you just have it both ways.
Yep. Yeah, we mentioned inevitability previously from the Academy Ruins. You see how all these pieces lock together to just make sure you always have access to the cards you need.
Yeah, and now with Cavern of Souls on Construct, Academy Ruins,
Here is surgical extraction on the walking ballista.
Rosum's just like, yep, don't care, have another Karn.
Yep. He says, I'll get that one back one way or another. And we are now in turns. I'll say this. Rosum has to like the fact that he's in turns now. He basically is the one with the chance of winning this game, I think. It will be difficult for Dollaway to find a way. Not impossible, but difficult. There is a Celestial Colonnade on the battlefield. That matters a lot.
Yep.
Here's Jace the Mind Sculptor. That is going to resolve, and it's going to plus. Time for some Fate Sealing. Field of Ruin. Another important card.
That's a wrinkle.
Amulet is the draw off the top. A lot of explosiveness headed Rosum's way,
Yeah.
but needs a payoff.
Don't think that accomplishes a whole lot, assuming Dollaway's also sitting on a way to deal with this Karn.
There's another Amulet.
Alright, so Rosum passes. Dollaway thinks about using Field of Ruin on the Cavernous Souls. Ends up not doing it. Which is pretty reasonable. Cavern's on Construct. The Ballista is exiled.
Yep. Would need a reset before it mattered. Dollaway going to use some mana here. Detention Sphere on both those amulets. That should probably close the door on Rosum actually winning this game. We're on turn 3. It's like Dovin's Veto Spell Pierce maybe in Dollaway's hand. Rosum just going to pass the turn back. We're on turn 4 now. All right, Rosum takes a draw here. Is there anything left he can do? I look like a Sakura Tribe Scout. That's not going to do a whole lot.
I wonder if the players were specifically playing towards the draw, because I think Dollaway could have tried to make more aggressive lines with the Colonnade to potentially close this out on turn 4.
Mm-hmm.
But that's always a risky proposition.
It's a
when it comes
gamble,
down to
yeah. I
time.
mean, against a deck that can kill you just out of nowhere, you're putting down your shields to some extent to try and make those kind of plays.
And then you go from trying to win a game that is not likely in a short amount of time in order to avoid getting a draw when it's more likely that you just lose instead.
Right.
So do you take maybe this draw that you basically have locked up?
Yeah, at 5-1, I could see the argument for playing towards the draw, and the players are going to shake hands. It's going to be a draw, and I think Dollaway was probably the favorite at that point. Oh wait, we're hearing from the table now. Rosum actually conceded there. Interesting.
That's nice of him. I mean, he knows at that point with Jace.
Unlikely.